Mwahaha. Happy Halloween, everyone. I'm UberNerd14, and as soon as I finish carving this pumpkin here, I'll be telling some spooky stories. In the Halloween event currently in the game, the toys that you collect each tell a different, bite-sized, scary story. Some of them are better than others, some are pretty bad, but I figured I'd make a video going over all of them just for fun. So whether you're preparing to hand out candy or just want to be in a spooky mood, settle in for some fun tales. Before we begin though, I just want to say that I'll be telling each of these stories as they are in the game, leaving in any errors. Also, each quest is separated by a line saying that you solved all the toys' requests. The whispers continue, its story unfolds. But I'll be cutting those out because it would get very repetitive otherwise. These stories are in order of the toys, and without further ado, the first story. The Buried Bear, told by Kevin. There was a small, creaky old cabin right next to a beautiful lake, but no one wanted to live there. People who had stayed there said growls and scratching on the windows could be heard in the middle of the night. If they listened closely to the noise, it sounded like the shuffling of a large animal outside. Some said they could even see the shape of a bear with large orange eyes walk past their window. One day, a brave man heard the story and rented the house to confront the dark presence. Late in the night, he saw the furry shape of a large animal outside the bedroom window, just as the others had said. He marked the spot outside where he had just seen it. In the morning, he dug up the spot, and right below the surface, he found a strange teddy bear, perfectly preserved, laying in the mud. On the next full moon, the man built a log fire out in the forest. As he knelt down, he took the bear out of his bag and threw it onto the fire. He prayed to banish the demon to the forest and to be at peace. After that night, the dark presence disappeared, and the house was not haunted anymore. The end. The next story is Red Eyes, told by Sir Hugs-a-Lot. Each night, he kept her safe. She would press his tummy and hear him say in that childlike voice, "I love you. Hold me tight." As her eyes began to get heavy and she slowly slipped into her dreams, she awoke to a low, rattling groan next to her. She turned to her teddy. Each night his loving eyes would soothe her fears of the dark, but as she opened her eyes, all she saw was deep crimson red eyes glaring back at her. In a low, droning voice, Teddy murmurs, "I love you. Hold me tight." The end. The next story is The Locket, told by Secret Steve. In her bed, with her last breath, she whispered into the locket and placed it in her daughter's hand. "Keep it close to you," she said. Her daughter wore it every day from that day forward, strung around her neck with a piece of silk ribbon. "Hasn't gotten colder all of a sudden," she thought to herself. Her skin began to gray and fall out. Her nails even grew yellow and thick. She didn't recognize herself anymore. What was happening? She stared at herself in the mirror, her reflection suddenly resembling that of her mother. "Keep it close," she heard in her mother's frail voice behind her. She tossed the locket out the window, hoping her curse would be lifted, only to feel a breath on the back of her neck. The end. Next up is Silver Veil, told by Mr. Tickles. My eyes opened slowly, although I couldn't see much. I still had my wedding dress on, but I was not in the church anymore. Where was I? As I felt around, I quickly realized that I was enclosed in a box. A box or a coffin? I screamed and kicked for what seemed like hours. What had they done to me, and why? I thought to myself. What would become of my child if I don't escape from this box? My lungs were filling with dust every time I took a breath. It was so dusty, I couldn't see anything. I heard something move down by my feet. I moved my legs to one side so I could get a better look at the bottom of the box. To my horror, a lady dressed in a wedding gown was crawling up towards me. I was trapped. Clutching my child's teddy, I removed her veil as she got close, but instead of a face, just a skull was visible. It was the last thing I saw before my heart stopped. The end. The fifth story is Child's Play, told by Betty Lou. A man began tucking his little son into bed like he did every night. On this night, the little boy said to his father, "Daddy, Can you check for monsters under my bed?" The man did as his son requested and looked under the bed. There the man saw his little boy, another him, quivering and staring at him with fear. The boy under the bed whispered, "Daddy, there's someone on my bed." The last thing he saw was his alarm clock flashing 12:07 before he felt her long, rotting nails sink into his chest. He bolted upright, relieved that it was just a dream. Then he saw the clock flash 12:06 as his bedroom door creaked open. The end. Betty Lou also has a really short horror story at the end of the quests that isn't really attached to the other ones. I call it The Mother. One day, a little boy was playing in his room upstairs. He heard his mother call him from the kitchen. As the little boy headed downstairs, he heard a whisper from the hallway closet saying, "Don't go down there, honey. I heard it too." The end. Next up is Annabella's visit, told by the titular Annabella. A boy babysat for a rich family one night. Their house was eclectic with artifacts from around the world. When the kids were asleep, the boy wandered around the house, taking a closer look at the interesting artifacts. Then his eyes were drawn to the doll. She sat on the shelf with thoughtless porcelain eyes and the prettiest pink dress he had ever seen. The doll blinked and giggled. Spooked by the doll, the boy called out to the father to ask if they had noticed anything odd about the doll. "Listen carefully," he said. "We don't own a doll like that. Our kids have complained about a little girl dressed in pink who visits them at night. Get the kids out of there now." The parents had come home, paid him, and let him go early. As the boy walked through the quiet neighborhood back to his house, a child's giggle was the last thing he heard. The end. The seventh story is The Siren's Call, told by Trixie Bell. Every fairground has its prized acts, sights that are so tantalizing. Visitors come from far and wide to get a glimpse. She was different. A young, curious man who owned a toy shop came to see her. They say she never took a breath. Her long silver hair floated around her in a mesmerizing manner. She never moved her mouth, never smiled, just floated there in her watery glass box, watching. Her piercing green eyes darted from visitor to visitor. He had never seen anything so stunning. Many became obsessed with her beauty and never left her side, simply wasting away their years. The young man was never the same from that day forward. He filled his store with dolls just like her, seeking desperately to capture her beauty. Some things everyone agreed upon. Those who locked eyes with her and heard her song left everything they possessed behind so as to drown in her presence. He was doomed to dedicate his life to replicate her beauty, never finding peace. The end. The last of the toys stories is Ringmaster's Trick, told by Psychopomp Pete, and is the story of the Halloween quest giver, the Ringmaster. Quirky, yet oddly cute, the toy monkey sat there in its golden jacket, holding a symbol in each hand. The Ringmaster would bring his monkey to his act and kept it under lock and key each night after the show. Every good Ringmaster has their way of luring crowds to the show, but this one had a trick so enchanting, so captivating, that no one stands a chance of escaping its call. They say the Ringmaster's fair was doomed to fail, but he sold his soul to a demonic power to gain success and glory. What was his price, you say? An eternity of show after show, reaping the souls of his innocent crowd. Seems like a simple price to pay for fame and fortune. The end. And that's the end of this video. I hope you have a great Halloween. Please let me know which one of these stories was your favorite, or your favorite horror story in general. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing. See you next time. Alright, that's enough. It's cold out here.